Okay, let's go. Yesterday I played a classical game and I wanna analyze that. I played as black and I did not know who I was going to play, and I kind of prepped a what's it called, Benoni type of thing, because I kind of want to win in every game, especially with black. But my opponent played c4, so my entire prep was gone already. I know a bit about c4, but like I I played knight f6 in an attempt at if they did play d4, I could play c5 and then we get into my prep maybe. Um, so, but yeah, g3 and I know that e5 is a good move here, and that's kind of all that I know. I also know that it's actually okay to just try to stunt this bishop and play c6 and try to play d5. My opponent played d4, which I looked at a bit and I eventually took. Don't think there's anything else. Can't really push, you can't really defend it properly. Maybe there's bishop d6 or something, but yeah. And I played d5, which well, my plan was that if they take, I take with the queen, and then this would be playable because I have the bishop pair, and this pawn is kind of a weakness, but it's still probably fine. I might even play that for a win still because of the bishop pair. But they took and didn't take, of course, with the bishop because that bishop is strong. They played bishop d2. And I just tried to needed to find a good way to develop, and my original plan was kind of, well, there's an issue with this bishop. If this bishop moves, like let's say I can set this up, bishop c5, then I lose the g pawn, and I don't want to play f6. So what I did is my plan was something like bishop e6, knight d7, knight f6, something like that. So yeah, I played bishop e6. Also there are some nice ideas with knight b4 maybe. So that looks decent. Knight c3 to just attack the center again, and again I'd get if we trade, then we'd get into a bishop and knight versus bishop and knight endgame. So I didn't like that, so I tried to find a solution. So I played queen b6, which seems okay. And after they took, I took back with the knight, and suddenly honestly I think I'm already equal right now. And there are also some knight c4 ideas, which were better in than well, I think there's a moment I could have played that, but I didn't. Right now it looks okay, but like you can just kick it, and maybe I take the bishop after that. And that looks playable for my opponent, but I don't know. So I played my opponent played knight f3, and I saw that there were some issues with like the knight jumping in some situations, and then I did not prevent that. Well, I prevented one. So I played knight d7, which prevents this but makes this kind of an issue. And then and I saw that if they did this, then I'd be okay because I can put my bishop on a6. But then this pawn loses a defender, so I can't castle long on the next turn. So they castled, and I castled long. Yeah. And then knight g5, and now I was in wasn't in some big trouble, but I had to like put some effort into not being behind that much. Well, there is actually some interesting trick here, because this is a battery, so I have a discovered attack by moving my knight, which I could use to compensate a bit. I believe knight c4 here is also good, and also here I considered knight c4, and then I think that's probably pretty good here. But yeah, and here it might even be better. Knight c4, maybe you're forced to go here. But yeah, I played knight c5 actually instead of knight c4, which defends and attacks this bishop. So in the event that we trade, actually I'd take the bishop here, but yeah, like even if we trade like this, I'd be okay, because I have the my pawn structure isn't damaged, and I'd play knight versus bishop. Would be easier said than done, but it's okay. Yeah, my opponent played bishop e3, attacking the knight. This doesn't actually threaten to win anything, but and I can even just play something like h6 or f6, and knight takes, and I just take back with the knight. I can also maybe play bishop e7. I'm not sure about that. Actually, bishop e7 looks good here. I think I missed that. Take there, and I take here. So bishop e7 and take. That looks solid. But yeah, I played I missed bishop e7, and I played h6, which forces this trade practically, because if you go, let's say you go back, then I believe this is actually pretty good for me, and I'd be happy here. But yeah, take. And now my opponent did something that I did not expect, but it worked out. But I think I also kind of made it worse than it needed to be. So they took here on b6, and I took back. Now this is kind of one weakness. Right? Yeah. And now they developed their rook to the d file, which I own. And I can hold on to the d file by moving the bishop. But there's not really a good place for my bishop actually. Like bishop c5 is okay, but then you get knight a4, and then I'd have to part with my bishop actually, because this pawn otherwise hangs. Bishop b4, a3, it gets kicked out, and like I can't go to a5 because it gets trapped, so I'd have to go find someplace else to play, and again bishop c5, knight a4, and I'd have to lose my bishop. Bishop d6, you might get some one, it doesn't do anything here, and you also might get the opponent doubling up on the d file. And bishop e7, which I played, is also bad for a really weird reason, and my opponent found it, or actually is bad. I think it's the best move, but it gives my opponent a specific option which they wouldn't have had in any other case, which was bishop h3, pinning my knight and just threatening to take, and there's nothing I can do about that. So what I did is I just unpinned, threatening to run away, and they just took. And now I play bishop versus knight. But this is an interesting bishop versus knight, because I have a very weak pawn structure, and especially this pawn is pretty weak. But it's still a bishop, so I was actually thinking that a draw is not that likely, and I think I'd either win or lose this. And I was going for the win, of course, in this position. My opponent played f4 here, which I thought was good, and I actually had to think for quite a bit to figure out anything, because the threat is this and that and here maybe, and black cries, and actually this is already just really bad, and knight e4 probably after that. So I had to try to prevent that, and after something like this, e5 is maybe playable. No, wait, it wasn't, because you get to the 7th rank here and lose this pawn. So I can't open up the f-file because I'd lose. I looked at moves like rook f8, but that's slow again, and I can't really defend against e5, although I think I could have, now that I think about it. And I tried to find a way to not take this rook, which is always at least okay. And I really couldn't. Also, after this you can just take, and I take back, and then same idea. Maybe then I get in, or like rook d1 again, I don't know. Rook f8, maybe just e5, e4, with the plan of e5, or just knight e4, I don't know. It all didn't look great to me, so I eventually decided to just take, rook d8, trade off, and my opponent played e4, and here I played actually a move that I'm very proud of, and I think this is the move that kept the winning chances alive for me. And actually I think I'm better in this position after this move, but it's very close. It's like draw-ish / slightly better for black. I played a brilliant move, e5, and the point is, if you take, so I'm just threatening to take and alleviate my weakness. So there are only two real moves. If you take, I'd give a check here and just run to the pawn, and you can't, well, you can technically defend it, and now you can't, now you just lose it back, and then I can fight against this weakness, and this knight can't really do anything about this. So it was pretty clear that you couldn't actually take it, so f5 is forced, which is definitely a good move, because you get a 3v2 here on the king side, but I also have a 3v2 here, and I have a bishop that can just attack both sides if I can get it active enough, which I tried to do something, but it did not work, I don't think. So I gave this check, king g2, and I pinned the knight to this pawn. I basically stopped this knight from moving. Because the pawn can't move because you lose the knight, and if the knight moves you lose the pawn. The knight can't go here because it gets trapped, or actually it gets kicked. And if the knight goes here, then it's dominated by my bishop. So I thought this was a good place for my bishop to be. Yeah, that's what happened. And and now my plan is to do something like this and maybe get a passed pawn. King f3, and I played b5, which also kind of blocks this. And my plan was b4, because that forces the knight here. Note that knight a4, b5 again traps the knight immediately. So b4 is a threat that forces knight d8. And then I believe this was the plan. Something like that. So b4 is a serious threat, and my opponent played a3 to defend. And I played king e7, which has multiple plans. Like I can go that way, I can go that way. I also realized that I could do something like this, but those are actually tempi that I don't want my opponent to play. My opponent does want to play this. That's their winning chance. So in this position my opponent played g4, and I decided to actually stop my opponent from playing g5 by playing king f6 preemptively. And now we get to this position, which I think should still be better for black, but it's very close, and if not, if I just don't do anything, it's probably a draw. Because I don't see the move. I mean, my position is very stuck, but I don't see a move for white, like whatsoever. Okay, okay, that's not true actually. This is what white can do, because the king needs to keep defense of this square and that square. So if the king goes too far away, I'd attack the pawn, and then the pawn needs to move and my king gets in, and this is never an issue. And if the king goes here, for example, or here, then I get this diagonal, which is also great. I can tickle these pawns and defend this, and my king can go, well, like that, basically. So the king has to defend these two squares. The knight is stuck. The knight can go this, basically. This king can go there, and those are the only moves I saw that my opponent could make. But what can I do here in this position? I looked at these types of moves. My king can't move because then g5 comes, and I can move some pawns. I considered even c5, but then you get knight d5. c5 you can take here, but then I take here, and that's fine for me, I think, because then the pawn can run, well, not that far, but probably some distance. But knight d5 is the issue, and then g5. So that's not an option. The moment my bishop moves, the knight can move. So I can move the bishop, but then the knight can move again. And I can do this, which I thought of for a bit, and then I realized this is probably a weakening move. Actually, it turned out. So I thought I could also replace my king with the bishop, basically. So I could put my bishop here, and I move my king around. But that actually, and that's probably fine, but then the knight can move again, which is okay, because I don't actually see how the knight gets in this position. Where can the knight go? The knight can go like that is, I think, the way to, and then it tickles this pawn. Which is might actually be an issue. So here, say here. But then I can play b6 again. And then my opponent would need to find a different way to maneuver the knight, to attack this pawn by moving it here or something. Actually, that's not good enough. Okay, so that was kind of the plan, at least. So I played bishop c5, and like I think that's actually solid still. I think it's still good to put my bishop here and then slowly move my king. Not all the way to there, but you know. Bishop c5 is I think still the plan, and then my opponent played knight e2 again. And I also did not actually see their plan. They had a different plan than what I assumed. There's also this move, interestingly. I can just go back, and they can't take, I don't think, because then I think I get a connected passed pawn here, and even though the king can go here and push, I think that's still fine. So I didn't play that, I played something else, and I think I made a mistake here. But I played the move b4, but let's say this, take. I mean, you can do this. I think you're forced to do that basically, and then that. But I get some pressure here as well, and then this is just a draw. We can both shuffle here, and I don't think there's anything either of us can do, because if we try anything, the other player runs with their pawns. Actually, there might be. No, let's do that. This. There might be here actually even. No, I don't think this is. Yeah, because you can't do that. Because I take here. No. So this is also stuck. And that's a draw. But yeah, I played something else. I played b4 because I thought that take I could get in, and I'm threatening to take obviously, and pushing this pawn. My pawn is already pretty close, and then I can do maybe this. And I thought that I could break through here. But I actually couldn't. So a4 and bishop e7 and then b3, and now there's no way to break through for me. And now I'm just losing, I think. Because this will eventually get through probably, even if I move my king around, and this king can go here. And there's nothing I can do to stop that, because I can't play b5, because then this pawn runs. Probably. So after bishop e7, b3, I mean there's a different thing that I now get this square, and I can maybe put my bishop on that diagonal, so I move back. And knight g3, which I missed in this plan. Knight h5 and g5 happens very quickly, and I have to take. And now I tried to still break through, which might be wrong, but I think it's still fine. I played c5 here. G6 check, king f8. So there is a thing where this knight is kind of trapped still, even though f6 isn't actually playable in this position. Let's actually show that, because I have king g7 and I win the pawn, and like you can't attack anything else in response. So that's a move that I need to take care of, and I actually there is a moment where it is playable, but we'll see that. King e7, and I played b6, which is bad probably, but it's okay. And now I can get to this diagonal, blocking the knight. Knight can't move. King c4 gets in, and I try to get. So my bishop is now perfectly blocking the knight, and it can go here to defend the pawn. My opponent here played a5, which is, I think, a good move, but I don't even think it matters. So take, and I played bishop d8, king b5, and here I blundered, unfortunately, and it might already be over, but it's I'm definitely already behind. I think I could save this by playing the correct move in this position, which is bishop b6. And you can't take, because then I run. You can like do this, and then I go back, and then it's just a draw. And you still can't do f6, because this... maybe now you can take... No, you can't. Maybe now you can take the bishop, though. Yeah, this looks winning for white, so it doesn't matter. And I don't even have to play that immediately. I can also just do this. But then maybe the knight goes here and prevents king g7. Oh, but then it's draw again, because you still can't take because the knight isn't fast enough. It is pretty fast, but it really just doesn't get there. If I take it, it might get there. Actually, if you take, it gets very close. You're one move away, but it's still entirely too far. So yeah, you still can't take. So you have to find something else, and like, I mean, you can do this, but then like whatever. I think this is actually still a draw. But yeah, so that's the correct move to play. And I played bishop c7, which definitely loses on the spot, because after f6. And so here I gave up. Here I surrendered. But let's show the line. You take, you push first is the point. Check, king. Let's say king f7, and then you can take this pawn. Threatening to promote. I'm forced to take, and then you fork. And that loses, of course. And if I don't take, if I play something like this, then you play f7, and then I can cry. And then I can still play this. Like, my king can't move, and there's no way for me to make my king be able to move. And like, I think this now is bad, so now I have to go here or something. And like, you can do whatever, and now I'm actually just dead. Let's say here, yeah, this is not playable. Also, there is this nice thing where, like, if I, let's say, not there, of course, but let's say here, oh, not there either. Let's say here, then you give this check and promote, and there's just nothing I can do. So it was all losing, and I think this is the best thing you can try. But then it's still over. So yeah, that was the game. I'm going to analyze this with the engine for a bit, see where I could have improved. So this is all still fine. c6 is okay. I have to apparently push, but oh, yeah, of course. Of course this is winning. Pushing is apparently playable, but I took, that's still fine. d5 is okay. This is fine. Bishop e7. Oh, apparently you can play bishop e7. Oh, because I played bishop f6 and yeah, take b2. Yeah, knight c3. Queen f6 is also interesting. I play queen b6, very similar. Take. Oh yeah, I also saw knight d4. Same idea. But I thought knight d4 was probably fine because I go to d5. Ah, knight c4. No. Castle long is apparently fine. Knight c5 only move, or well, one of the best moves. Knight c4 is also good. Bishop e3, h6 best move, yes. Good, good, good. Take is the best move. Everything else is worse for white. Interesting. Take, take. Bishop h3 immediately. Oh, cool. And now I'm better. Yeah, that's what I thought. Rook c8. Bishop e7 is apparently not good. Bishop, yes. I'm still better. f4. Okay. b5, that's cool. Would not have played b5 because I thought that the idea of e4, e5 would be too killing. So I traded, and now I'm suddenly slightly worse. e5. I'm so proud of this move, e5. Despite what happens in the rest of the game, e5 is a good move. f4, check. Put my bishop there. Oh, a4. That's cool. Apparently I have to play b5 to prevent that even. Now b5. Now it's a draw. Yeah, now it's just a draw. Oh, h5. I did look at that for a bit, I think. Maybe later, when it's no longer possible, yeah. h4, g6, I did look at that. But I thought that that was... I mean, okay, so yeah, that's all. I did see that that was probably a draw, but probably slightly worse for me. I just assumed that I had winning chances here. And b4 is bad, yeah. Just do nothing and it's a draw. And now I'm behind. Now I'm really behind. Yeah, now it's just basic. It's not quite over. I saw g6, but I thought that that was... I mean... g6, knight f6, and I did... I mean, I'd always have an issue here, right? And c5. Yeah. I thought I'd always have an issue here, but and engine kind of agrees. Because these pawns will slowly run and... I just lose my pawns and... Okay, maybe this is still drawn, but... Unclear. Oh, that's... It did give it that as a best move for a second. Is this a draw? It's still unclear for me. Because stuff is definitely happening. I was forced to move a pawn. And... it's still very unclear. And now it looks like the numbers are going slightly down. It looks like this is still drawn and there's just nothing. But this is like, you'd need to see that 30 moves in advance, and yeah, you need to see that here. Yeah, I took the g6, still same idea, and now it's just winning, yeah. Okay, yeah, so if the... If it's still winning here, then it doesn't really matter what happens, really. Ah, that's cool. Yeah, okay, now that's winning. Okay. And yeah, you have to play g7. Taking on f6 is apparently also fine, but then bishop d8 and it's unclear. Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. What did I learn? What's an improvement point here? So here this was interesting that I'm just better here. Just like wake up earlier maybe. e5 was good. Yeah, stop my opponent from getting through and maybe finding a good way to get through myself. Or just accepting that it's a draw and doing nothing. I really don't like accepting that it's a draw and doing nothing. I want to try to avoid that as much as possible. But yeah, that's the game. See whenever I do this again, which is probably I can look that up actually when the next one is. And it's definitely, well, it's probably in November somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, November for sure. And I'll see you there.